I expect there to come a day in which we will find that balance because guess what? These are the laws of economics and you can bend them for a while. You can bend the laws of economics, but you can't break them. And eventually they're going to reassert themselves and we're going to have that balance between supply and demand. Right
Right.
now, we're still celebrating the victory of Donald Trump. There's optimism in the air, and
Yes.
people remember what happened when Trump was first elected in 2016 and how his tax cuts gave a new boost to the stock market, and there was some growth back then, and the economy was doing well. So people expect that to return. People expect that to
Right.
happen again.
It's created this euphoria.
Yes, and even though I'm happy that Donald Trump was elected,
Yeah,
I'm
same
trying
with
to
me.
tell, yeah, I'm trying to tell people that perhaps this optimism is misplaced because things have changed since then.
I think so too. I mean, the economy is different. We got so much more debt.
I think that his personality and his abilities as a businessman can't change the fact that we've been mismanaging the economy for so long. With all due respect to Donald Trump, I don't think that just by the power of his personality, he can change those cycles of booms and bust. I think that there's a good chance that by the time that he is inaugurated, the economy will already be in a recession and that he will have no choice but to divert all his energies to dealing with that crisis. And it's going to be a done deal. And again, I don't think he is able to change the fact that we are overdue for a recession and that it is probably coming. And as I said, I think it's going to be the big one.
Well, that is concerning. And I mean, that's the reality of the situation, folks. There's only so much someone can do, and we view Trump in a certain way, but we're already so far down this path. I wouldn't hold my breath for an economic miracle or something like that, folks. You got to look at the data and be realistic about what's going on. Um, Before the election, I had seen a prediction that the national debt would grow if either candidate was elected. So either Trump or Harris. Now that we have elected Trump and we're just waiting for the inauguration, they have announced the plan to open a Department of Government Efficiency. A New York Times article had quoted Elon Musk saying that he could cut the $6.75 trillion budget by at least 2 trillion and that the 400 plus federal agencies could be cut to 99 or fewer. Now, this sounds very exciting. Um, and I was trying to dig into some of the numbers, and unfortunately, I don't think that this is going to mean that we're going to see a reduction in the national debt. And I know this is kind of a gray zone, but I don't know if you'd be comfortable speaking on that a little.
Well, I should say that I sympathize both with Trump and with Elon Musk for trying to reduce government spending and to make the government, the federal government, more efficient and not so wasteful as it is right now. That's the admirable, that's the correct thing to do. But short term, when you cut government spending so dramatically as they propose, there are consequences to that because right now, government spending is such a huge part of the American economy, such a huge part of the GDP, that if you truly cut government spending, dramatically, then you may induce a recession. Or if you are already in a recession, you may exacerbate that recession because people are just so used to government spending, and so many corporations and private people are dependent upon that spending that if it's suddenly taken away from them, then they need to find a new job or new sources of revenue, and that takes time. So, in the meanwhile, although it's the right thing to do, it induces pain. So, if I look at history, how Donald Trump has acted in his previous term, he was not a fiscal conservative. The debt continued to grow. So, if you ask me, if Elon Musk comes along and cuts 1 trillion or 2 trillion off the budget, I'm guessing that Donald Trump will just find another way to spend those $1 trillion or $2 trillion, and they're going to tell you that they're spending that money, but more efficiently. And
Right.
that is perhaps true. Perhaps they are going to spend that money more efficiently on more productive causes. But I don't think they can cut such a huge amount of government spending without pain. You can't do it without people suffering. And right now, people are expecting Trump to solve all the economic problems without any pain, without a recession. They're expecting growth. So somebody is going to get disappointed one way or another.
Yeah, they're going to have to take the cuts from somewhere. And if they are looking at closing down entire agencies, well, like you said, there's going to be short-term pain. There's going to be shock to the system. A lot of people will be looking for jobs that had been employed by the government previously. Is the private sector really going to be able to pick up that big of a percentage of the GDP? It seems unlikely to me, and it's very concerning that this recession is going to come no matter what. And I know everyone's very excited about Trump, and like you said, they feel like it'll be great, like it was last time. But the thing is, last time, folks, is we have to remember the stimulus checks went out under Trump. So that, that was a little artificial money pumped into the economy that ended up affecting inflation. And now, when we're looking at the situation right now, that the national debt has recently passed $36 trillion. They say it costs about $3 billion per day to service the debt. And, some of the big dogs like JP Morgan had commented, this was out of a Yahoo article, that this level of debt is unsustainable. And so the writing's on the wall, the warning signs are there.
There's something important that we need to stress, and that is that in the beginning of a recession, you usually see the price of gold and silver dropping due to a decline in industrial demand. And it takes a while for investment demand to increase because the Fed lowers interest rates, because the Fed starts printing money, then investment demand usually picks up, and then the price starts to shoot back up. And we're not sure if it's going to happen again this time. Why? Because, eventually I expect the public to start pricing in that future inflation. I mean, like, I'm quite shocked that it didn't happen thus far.
Right.
If we look at 2020, the initial decline in the prices of the metals when the crisis started, it was very brief. The prices, I think, dropped for a couple of weeks. And then there was this weekend, I think that the price of silver hit $11 an ounce, some ridiculous price like that. And then it started shooting up. And by summer, you had gold setting new all-time highs. And perhaps in the next recession, we're not going to have even that initial decline, or perhaps it's going to be smaller than we're used to seeing. Perhaps it's going to be shallower. The only question is whether the public has realized that eventually gold and silver, their price rises during the recession or after the recession. So will they start to price in that dynamics? If they start pricing it in, then perhaps we're not going to see that initial decline, or perhaps it's going to be shallower than in the past. We'll have to wait and see. It's simply something that we don't know right now.
It is concerning to me seeing where we're at right now with the economy and with the price of silver where it's at. And silver got hit really hard, but I am stepping back and looking at the silver market. And we had discussed it briefly on election night. Basically nothing is going to change with the market. Inflation's still going to exist, and silver's industrial demand is expected to hit a new record this year. Is this low price, this artificially low price that's provided by the paper markets with all their leverage, is this sustainable? Or will the usefulness for silver in the modern age for, electronics, electric cars, solar panels, you name it, is its usefulness and the demand for it eventually going to be reflected in the price?
Uh, I consider the current price action in gold and silver to be not more than noise. I think people are still under the impression that, hey, what happened during Trump's first presidency is going to repeat, and they need to realize that things have changed since then. And specifically regarding silver, we are currently, again, this year, in a physical deficit. We're using more silver than we are getting out of the ground. And so long as you have a deficit, that probably means that the price is too low.
I completely agree. Something that I've been concerned about is its price is so low that it's causing it to be used wastefully. And I almost feel like we're robbing like the future generations of the opportunity. I mean, we don't know what technology might come out in the future that might need silver. It is the most conductive metal. It's antimicrobial. Um, it's so useful. And just to think that right now, tons of it is getting thrown into landfills because the price is so low. I think, people can't wrap their minds around it. And it's one of those things where, if you're looking at, let's say, a drone, there's something I looked up the other night. The average drone has about 2 grams in it, so not too much. And at its current price, what are you going to do if your drone breaks? You're going to throw the whole thing in the garbage. You're not going to go digging through that to try and get, whatever it is, $4 or $5 worth of silver out of it. You're just going to throw it in the garbage and move on with your life. Now, if
And
silver,
that's true in respect to smartphones and laptops and many other applications.
right, absolutely. All that stuff's just getting thrown out right now. But if we had a fair market valuation, I don't know where its price might be at. I'll just throw out $135. You know, I think that that's plausible. If there was no paper market, we might be looking at a price like that, in my opinion. And I do think if it was at that price, people would go ahead and crack that drone open or whatever it is and fish that silver out of there.
Yes, because
In my opinion.
recycling would be much more profitable and would make sense suddenly. So people kind of lose sight of what a price means and what is the point of a price. People are so, obsessed with speculating with prices rising, prices falling, that they forget the entire point of having a price is in order to balance between supply and demand. If there is more supply than demand, then price should fall. And if there's more demand than supply, then the price should rise so the market can find equilibrium. Now, we've been out of equilibrium for so long that we have forgotten this, this very basic principle, but we are going to reach equilibrium one way or another. Now, the thing about silver, which is different than, for instance, wheat or even crude oil, is that you have that speculative element to it because it's been a monetary metal for thousands of years. The powers that be are rightfully concerned that if the price begins to rise, then investment demand is going to increase. And instead of finding equilibrium, on the contrary, it's going to it's going to throw it out of equilibrium even more because as the price rises, there's going to be more demand and more demand and more demand coming from investors. This is what they're so scared of. They're afraid that the price will get out of control completely and that we're going to need a much, much, much higher price in order to find a true balance. Now, because they've manipulated it for so long, for so many decades, they've taken it to such an extreme that now you need to see the other extreme in which both investors and industrial users cannot afford to pay any more for it because the price is so high. So I expect there to come a day in which we will find that balance because guess what? These are the laws of economics and you can bend them for a while. You can bend the laws of economics, but you can't break them. And eventually, they're going to reassert themselves, and we're going to have that balance between supply and demand.
I think you're totally right. This can't go on forever. It simply can't. I mean, at some point, there will be an even tighter supply crunch. So we're going on our fourth year now of a deficit. And I think once people kind of wake up to this situation, like you said, the investment demand, I mean, could really throw this thing out of whack. You get a whole bunch of people piling into a market this small at the same time, and the price will go crazy. But yeah, we're not at a healthy equilibrium right now, as you were discussing. They haven't been letting the natural supply and demand dynamics play out for so long. The price is crazy low. I mean, it should be much higher than it is, and I think it's just a matter of time. Um, at some point, its true value will come out.
I trust the laws of economics. They're like magic spells. They're gonna
Yeah,
do their thing. No one could have imagined that it's going to take so long for this market to reassert itself, for true supply and demand dynamics to take over this market again. But if we look historically, any manipulation breaks at the end because they're unsustainable by definition. So I'm quite confident that if we just manage to hold on to our physical gold and silver, then eventually we're going to get rewarded handsomely. Thank you for listening to the Silver Hermit podcast. If you like this content, please donate in the link which appears in the description below. Please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and family. Hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I release a new video. Remember, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This video is intended for general informational purposes only and should not be regarded as investment advice. Before taking any investment decision, please consult with a professional financial advisor who may assess your personal investment objectives and needs.